Well, thank you, Lawrence, and the ICCP for inviting me to join such an esteemed cross-section of honorable speakers. My name's Sylvester Wong. At ACOM, we're proud to be over 1,000 in the Philippines now. And as country executive, I also now lead the ESG, the Environment, Social, and Governance for ACOM across all of Asia by embedding sustainable development, improving social outcomes, achieving net zero carbon emissions, and enhancing governance. It's been nearly 7 years since we at ACOM did the new Clark City Master Plan, initially built on our differentiating approach that the economic competitiveness of the region and nation should be the primary driver of how best to harness this 35,000 hectare zone left to us by the U.S. Department of Defense. And once known as Clark Green City, it was birthed from the idea that, like the multipolar megaregions that are our neighbors, leveraging trade and infrastructure to become trillion-plus-dollar economies, the Philippines needs more than a single monopole Metro Manila. The idea was that multiple cities together create opportunity. And these are cities that have to work with infrastructure, physical and digital, showing leadership in sustainability and resilience, attracting not just investment, but more importantly, talent to propel the Philippines economy on the global stage. And with Clark Global City, Clark Freeport, and Clark International Airport all operate as an ecosystem to unleash the economic empowerment of this 140 square kilometer piece of economic engine. All that is part of the comprehensive integrated development master plan that ACOM executed for BCDA to hone the roles and synergies across all the northern Luzon portfolio. And that includes the 60,000 hectares at Subic, the country's most strategically positioned deep water harbor. There's Morong Valley, ripe for media-based ecosystems and economies. There's Pearl Point, 300 hectares of potential for secure cyber tech industries given the submarine cable landing point and its very secure geography. And Camp John Hay, which remains the nation's accessible forest treasury, an exemplar of sustainable tourism. I broadly outline all of these to help us see the contextual strategy and why New Clark plays a central role, a point guard, if you will, in the Team Gilas of the BCDA portfolio. So permit me to walk you through the plan of New Clark as a reminder of the fundamental framework and mission embodied in a physical plan. And we start with number one, it's not a greenfield site. It's not a blank slate to the people and ecosystems that have been there all along. The land underneath provides millions of years of clues to working with the land, the rolling hills, the meandering rivers, the vegetation that defines Pampanga and Tarlac. And so, number two, the plan starts with the nature-based solutions of managing floodwaters to bring the majesty of the Pinatubo landscape into the city, reserving 60% of the 9,450 hectares as natural reserve. 60% of 9,000, that's like Pasay and Makati and Mandaluyong and San Juan all being forests. Just imagine that, compared next to Pasig as the developed area. And BCDA worked very closely with the Asian Development Bank to get those green infrastructure systems in first. And it leads us to three. The choreography of land uses, bringing jobs and housing together in a chess game that isn't about predicting the future, but accommodating the unpredictable. It's the surprises that become tomorrow's unicorns. Specifically, we have the transit-oriented, highest density central business district. We have the government and sports core with a multimodal transport hub connecting to Clark Airport and Subic and Metro Manila. We have a mixed residential flanking the new entry that's leading from T-Plex. You've got catalytic tech industry to the north and wrapping around the Central Hills. You've got the Great Central Park at 44 hectares, one of the largest in the country. Mixed neighborhoods along Kutkut River leading uphill and south to the University Zone, with the University of Philippines overlooking the valley and reaching over the saddle to create synergy with the tech industrial zones. And that leads us to number 4, the grain of this, the granularity. Many narrower canopy-filled streets, creating more, not fewer, and smaller blocks. That's inclusivity. More perimeter means more walkability and less dependence on a single mode of auto transport. More choice for small businesses to find a storefront and thrive. More variety of parcels, allowing small developers and niche communities to find a place. Number 5, infrastructure is sustainable. It's regenerative, planned to reduce demand and diversify supply for power, water, waste, communications, mobility, and well-being. Renewable energy, battery storage, operational efficiency, reducing embodied carbon, green infrastructure, capturing, reusing water instead of over-reliance on built solutions. And number 6, diversity of uses, jobs, affordability of housing, so that there's an inclusive multi-strata community. And using natural features, shifting orientations so the sun and surrounding mountain ridgelines are experienced in different ways. Densities that align with transit orientation. These are the fundamental elements that define New Clark City. A great master plan is not whether it's built as drawn 20 or 30 years from now. How did it attract new champions in its first years? Did they jump in and start molding it to their visions and aspirations? That is a successful master plan. New Clark City has achieved great milestones in the past 6 years. The National Government Administrative Center, the NGAC, is now home to the Integrated Operations Center and over 20 agency offices to collaborate and respond effectively to disasters and crises anywhere across the nation. But it's not done yet. It's flanked by the Southeast Asia Games 2019 complex, which was designed like the London Olympics to evolve into a walkable, culture-rich downtown. The sleek stadium and aquatic center, just first pieces in an integrated city fabric. The Athletes Village and government worker housing plays a pivotal role today in providing modern facilities for COVID isolation. Right on the flood-managing Kut River Park, which is an art-filled natural space to anchor things like the bicycle centuries that now regularly begin and end there. So, as the initial first movers behind the affordable housing, the NGAC, the industrial, the golf resorts, the new communities, the universities, folks like Philinvest and the MTD and the University of the Philippines, the national agencies, and many more, as this mix comes in, you'll notice the deliberate diversification of the geographic origins and partnerships of BCDA, the use of the usufructuary rights, more opportunities to flex from leases, not quite titles. This is the land of the people that is not broken up and sold off. It's all a long-term strategy to align purpose and share outcomes. The more countries and stakeholders involved, the more international and local collaborations, the more diversity of industries, especially those related to skills building and technology transfer. That means the more that the Philippines matters to the global economy. And that's a really smart move. And this is already happening with the rise of animation and film post-production work, social media management, design, engineering services, the creative industries, the ones that don't require extra heavy investment in truck and supply chain, ports. These are the ones that are poised to rise from 3% to 10% of the Philippine economy. New Clark is part of that strategic vision of a future-ready, tech-based, English native but multilingual workforce, catalyzed by the Facebook DICT submarine cable and the broadband expansion and the connectivity to Metro Manila and further growth of the airport to potentially over 3 times its capacity in the next 2 decades, giving Asia and globally based executives, talent, buyers, a 30-minute gate-to-hotel experience. So ladies and gentlemen, post-pandemic, more than ever, the Philippines is sitting on potentially the most significant catalyst for national economic competitiveness that the region has seen in half a century. This is part of a story that releases the oversaturated, underprovided Metro Manila so that our capital can also be more successful. It's a rising tide floats all boats. And yet, it's the rising tides. Those are exactly the climate impacts that threaten our overdependence on Manila, as shown in some of these sea level rise scenarios, underscoring how the higher elevation inland location of Clark presents a risk-mitigated, robust, and resilient opportunity for investors, insurers, and locators and families. Families that have suffered. Families for whom the best and the brightest were literally elbowing their way past each other along EDSA and into Metro Manila, paying higher rents, spending more time away from their families, suffering longer commutes to work in smaller places for longer hours. Nation deserves the best to be their best. And a master plan for New Clark City is about creating this playing field. So remember these 6 key elements. Number 1, nature has been there for millennia. Let it work. Number 2, planning is the choreography of people and the things they do to create opportunity for their family. Planning is no longer creating barriers, but about sparking collaboration. Number 3, choice and serendipity are the tools of city making, manifested by many small, narrow streets to create accessibility and options to walk and set up shop, not super wide highways and mega blocks. Number 4, flexibility and allowing the unpredictable to create delightful surprise, supporting undiscovered creativity and entrepreneurship. Number 5, sustainability baked in, with technology and digital infrastructure that lets the place be agile and regenerative and maintain long-term value to investors by staying relevant in an increasingly climate-responsible world of capital markets. Institutional capital, asset managers, they don't want carbon nasty things in their portfolio anymore. And so it drives our move for more ESG aligned projects. And finally, 6, community is what creates identity. Authentic tribes, which manifest as neighborhoods where multiple generations can feel pride. This is what makes New Clark City, as part of the whole Clark ecosystem, work. So I look forward to working with so many of you to deliver sustainable legacies for you, your business, your investors, your families, your nation, by being a part of Clark. I invite you to connect. Let's keep the momentum going. Thank you very, very much.